Hi, Sally. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. How's everybody?
Hanging in there.
It's a little scary.
Yeah, it most certainly is. How did 3 months go by?
How are your kids doing?
They're doing okay. It's been a long spring and it's gonna be a long summer, but everybody's doing okay.
Good.
How is your family in Virginia?
They're good. They're good. And Cynthia had for some reason, I'm hearing myself. Am I doing something wrong?
There's an echo.
I know.
I don't know. Did you dial in and use your computer?
I think I might have.
Try
Wrong.
to unmute yourself.
I couldn't get in originally, so then I tried my phone.
Yeah, if you try to unmute yourself, or maybe I can unmute you. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, I hear you. You're fine.
Hey, Mary Ellen.
Yes.
I'm going to give you the lead.
Okay.
And then try to share your screen.
Okay.
Not sure how to do that without killing the stream, though. Give me a second.
I do have the option under share to share content. Should I just
try it and see what happens?
Do you see the agenda?
I do, but I don't know. Stephanie, do you see the agenda? Do you see the agenda on the YouTube page?
And then I just changed it to the reopening slide. Did Stephanie see it?
You can see her slide? Okay. All right, let me know if you see her slide. Okay.
I appreciate it a lot.
What do you see on the screen?
I
Okay, Mary Ellen, it appears to be working.
Okay, cool.
And I can't see the YouTube page. So, Stephanie, I'm just gonna leave it and just message me on Teams. Thank you.
So I'll try.
Hi, Bob.
Ellen, how are you?
Well, how about yourself?
Good, thanks. Graduation went all right, I hope.
Yeah, everything went as well as it can be during this time period. Yeah. Family.
Okay, we should be live right now.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, it's 4 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Mary Ellen, do we have a quorum? I can't.
I think there are only 3 of you on right now. We do not have a quorum yet.
Okay. Is that a quorum, or should we wait until we have a quorum? What's the Bob and Sally? What are your thoughts?
Robin just joined us.
All right.
Quorum.
All right. Welcome, Robin. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
Robin.
Hi.
Well, then I will go ahead and call our meeting to order, our virtual meeting. Don't believe we have anybody that is signed in or asking for public comments. So we'll move next to board president comments on the agenda. I don't really have anything to say today. I may add comments later on. Attending. And again, thank you, staff, for managing the library very effectively in what has been and continues to be a very difficult time. With that, then, Mary Ellen, if you would start with staff reports. And again, if I would suggest if we're not speaking, we mute.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I just want to start off by thanking the board for continuing to support me and the library staff as we go through our reopening plans. We are in phase 2 of our reopening, which is Library to Go. All of our locations are now open for Library to Go. And with Library to Go, patrons can place holds online. They get notified that their materials are available for pickup, and then they can schedule an appointment online or by phone. And our numbers have been steadily increasing. Just in the last week alone, we had 875 appointments to pick up materials. North had 166 appointments. Harry had 157 appointments. Maine had 156 appointments. So we've been learning a lot about how to provide this service, and patrons seem to be getting the hang of it as well, and our numbers are increasing. Last week, I had the opportunity to visit all of our branches and welcome the staff back who were recalled, and it's almost like we're onboarding everybody together as new employees into a brand new workplace. So we're learning a lot of new things. We've also reinstituted material returns. We're doing them in a special way where we have drop-off days. to help with safely handling the materials and quarantining them. This past Saturday, the team was out at the new Jackson branch. They filled 11.5 laundry-style hopper bins of materials that patrons brought back. That is a record for us in terms of the volume of materials returned. At Maine, so far, we've checked in approximately 2,500 items, and then at Lake, we had 1,700 items returned. We have received initial findings from the Battelle study out of Columbus on library materials and COVID-19. The study looked at how long the virus survived on common materials in libraries, and after 3 days of quarantine, the virus is not detectable on hardback book covers, paperback book covers, plain paper pages in a closed book, plastic book coverings, or DVD cases. And these are all very common materials that we have in the library. So this is very, very useful science-based information to inform our future decisions on how we accept returns, shelve items, and browse and open up browsing for our patrons. So I'm going to try to share my screen with you all to show you where we are in our reopening plans. Let me know if you can see the screen. Do you see a slide that says 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yes.
Okay, great. So just to review, phase 1 was when we were fully closed in March and May. We are now in phase 2, Library to Go, and I just described those services for you. We are now starting to plan for phase 3, which is limited visits, and we're starting to develop a plan to make sure that we follow the safest protocols available for our staff and patrons. In phase 3, we're hoping to reintroduce book drops, material returns inside buildings, computer access, printing, faxing, and scanning, and limited browsing. Right now, we are considering a pilot location to experiment and then rolling out branch openings throughout the summer based on what we learn via the pilot. And then stage 4, that's what's going to come into play after we look at the governor's guidelines on mass gatherings. And that's when we'll be looking at things like meeting room bookings and in-person programs. So as of now, that phase is a ways off. But just wanted you to know we're in phase 2. We're ramping up for phase 3 with a pilot, and all the while planning safe work protocols for the public and the staff. And that's basically our plan for now. Does anyone have any questions about the reopening?
I have a question, Mary Ellen.
Okay.
How are we communicating this to our patrons? I had somebody call me and said they were worried, and I thought, well, I've seen all this stuff, but I didn't know if it was just because I was a board member or if we email or how have we communicated?
Right. We've been doing a lot of virtual communications. We have email newsletters that we are sending out just about weekly, updating folks on where we are in terms of being able to place holds on materials, being able to return materials to the library. We also do a lot with social media on Facebook. We're promoting all of our services, and our website. We have a very in-depth FAQ on our website so that patrons can find out, how to utilize the library during this time period. And just recently, there was an article in the Canton Rep, which gave a good overview about where we are. And Stephanie Cargill and her team in communications, they send out press releases to the media as well.
So that email newsletter goes to a list that we have of.
Yes, it goes out to people who are registered in our system as library card holders.
Okay, thank you.
So if the person has a library card, that they should get the newsletter, or there's also a link to register for the email notification on our website.
That's what I figured, but I thank you very much.
Okay. 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 That's
Mary Ellen, may I ask something?
sure.
And I don't know if and this is something we can talk about later on among the board as well, if the board has any appetite for this, but I was wondering if we felt comfortable with it, maybe our July board meeting, if we could hold it, if we could socially distance in the Jackson branch as a board, could we hold an in-person board meeting there?
I absolutely think we can. We could certainly do that in the meeting room at Jackson.
Again, I don't know if other board members feel comfortable with it. Certainly if they don't, I would abandon the thought in a second, but
Fine with me.
pardon me, Bob?
It's fine with me.
It's fine with me.
I was gonna say, or if, not to put pressure on anyone, but still, this can be an option if everyone isn't comfortable. I think I'm okay with it if we can social distance, but yeah, okay with it. But we don't want to put pressure on others, if they're not comfortable with it.
We have done, as I was saying, we have brought back a lot of staff in the last couple weeks, and we've had to do safety orientations at different branches, and sometimes we've had groups up to 10, and we were able, and at Jackson, I saw how they did it. They arranged the tables individually, so each person had their own table to be able to maintain that social distance. And that would be a great opportunity for you guys to see the new branch with all the furniture and all the books. I know you guys saw it without any of the bookcases or furniture in it, and it just looks marvelous. So that would be great if you guys would like to do that. We can certainly plan for that.
So again, that's something to keep in mind, and maybe events may change, but if things continue to look good, let's maybe look at that.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, that concludes my report.
I miss seeing everybody in person too. So there's that added benefit, I guess.
I completely agree, Steve.
All right, go ahead, Mary Ellen. I'm sorry.
Okay, I don't have anything else.
Any other questions or comments for Mary Ellen? All right, well, thank you, Mary Ellen. Chris, if you'd give us a fiscal update, please.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Give me 1 second. So if you recall last month when we met, we were talking about the PLF quite extensively because May had a rather large cut compared to what we expected. It was somewhere, I think it was in the 30% range, and I wanted to wait until June reacted. The June PLF came in much more in line. We were down about 92,000 from what we expected, which was about 13%. And I expect that to continue to, I expect the decrease to continue to look better as we, as things open up in the state. I expect we'll get slightly closer to what we expected. I doubt we'll ever get all the way back. I'm assuming that most of the rest of the year and probably even next year will be lower than what we had ever hoped it would be. But it should slowly work its way back to normal, if you will. For the year, we're down $361,000 on the PLF. That's 7.5%, which will actually continue that for the rest of the year, put us really close to that $1 million mark. The percentage, if we go 9.75% for the rest of the year, we'll be under. But I think that overall percent will probably work its way up a little bit, and we'll probably end up really close to that $1 million cut. Speaking of the $1 million cut, if we look at the rest of our revenue and expenses for the year, so for this year we have revenue so far of just under $9 million, and expenses in the general fund expenses of just under $5 million. So we're as far as operations go, we're looking really good. Our operations budget post the $1 million budget cut is $15,420,000. We've spent $4,909,000, which is about 31% Last year at the same time, our percentage of our budget that we had spent was 35%. So even counting the $1 million cut, we're still technically ahead of where we were last year. It's a little difficult to judge what our operational costs are going to be, because as we reopen, there's additional personal protection equipment costs, supply costs. But at the same time, there's decreased staffing costs and other costs as we utilize programs such as SWO, and we have staff on layoff. We've also, had the hiring freeze that we instituted. So there's a whole bunch of different things at play that makes it really difficult to project a number. But at this point in time, I have no recommendations for any further budget cuts or any further adjustments to our budget. I think without any, really drastic news from the state as far as budget cuts or PLF reductions, we're sitting in a pretty good spot, all things considered. Does anybody have any questions?
Chris, if I understood you correctly, you said, I believe you said that there won't be any make whole. I mean, we're not going to see any of that lost PLF made back up to us. Is that correct?
So the May amount we still might. If you guys remember at our last meeting, the May amount was drastically decreased. I was expecting somewhere in the ballpark of 20%, and it was 30%. A large chunk of that was due to when income taxes are collected. And since income tax collection, or the income tax date was pushed back, I believe 90 days, we would expect that 3 months after May, we would see that lost revenue come back in. So I would expect in August that we would have a larger than expected, or at least PLF that matches our originally expected amount. So it would be larger than, if we weren't going to get that. So we'll get some of that back. But as far as we're losing, so I said we're down 9.75% for the entire year. I don't expect that to go positive. I don't expect it to be where we're off. I think we've probably seen, barring any unforeseen circumstances, I think we're already adapted to what our new normal is going to be. And I think our budget reflects what our revenue and expenses are going to be for at least the rest of this year. And then we'll likely just have to budget a little conservatively, more in line with the way our budget is now for this year. We'll have to do for next year. Does that answer your question, Steve?
Yeah. Yes, it did. Do we get any guidance from the state? I mean, you just, whatever you get, or whatever we get. There's no commentary or anything like that on what they're forecasting.
No, we don't really get any commentary. We work, well, Mary Ellen and I, and I'm sure other library staff members follow OLC, the Ohio Library Council, very closely, and they have a person on their staff that is kind of dedicated to trying to project this out. And even that person has had some struggles. I've tried to kind of do my own projections without what they're saying and seeing where I'm lining up with where they're at. And I also pay attention to what other fiscal officers are coming up with, and everybody seems to be kind of arriving with the same conclusion that this is where we are. We don't have much guidance from the state. I think the point where the state comes in is going to be if they adjust the budget in July. That will be the big key. But they would have to do a drastic change for it to really impact us. But we really, unfortunately, don't get a lot of guidance.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Chris, do you have any other comments?
No, that concludes my report, unless there's any further questions.
Any further questions for Chris? Chris, thank you. We appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. I'd ask if you've had an opportunity to review those. I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I so move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And welcome, Joe.
Hello.
Right, Joe, we're on the Buildings and Grounds Committee report. I don't know, do we have a report this month?
I do not.
No, we don't.
All right, thank you. Human Resources,
No.
Finance and Audit Committee,
No.
any new business to bring before the board tonight, or this afternoon, excuse me? No?
No.
Next, there are some personnel matters that we need to discuss, for which we will need to go in executive session. Ask for a motion to do executive session.
So moved.
And French.
Second. So we have a second. All right, so so I'll do my best. Robin,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Sally?
Yes.
Yes. All right, we are now in executive session.
Steve, bear with me 1 second while I stop the stream here.
Opposed, same. All right, the resolution passes. Is there any other business to come before the board this afternoon? Well, if hearing none, I want to thank you all for attending. Everybody have a great July 4th holiday that's coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.